Thank you so much, and thanks everybody for tuning in right before lunch. I'm Melizza Anievas. I'm co-founder of Women in Web3 Hong Kong, and I'm also a contributor at Core DAO. I do institutional and product marketing. On the stage with us, we have Vadim Zolotokrylin. Co-founder and CEO of Holdex. We also have Linda Chan, managing partner at Yolo Capital. Thank you everybody for being with us today. Our topic today is the building blocks in Web3, blockchain applications, and as well as investments. And we're going to hear from an investment point of view as well as from a business point of view and the intersection between fintech and traditional finance and all of this exciting technology that we have in Web3. So first question to Linda. Let's have a brief introduction of Yolo Capital and what you're building there.
Hi everyone, this is Linda from Yolo Capital, which is a venture arm of the Yolo Lab, the group. So Yolo Lab is a Web3 development studio. We have over 50 staff, mainly developers in Vietnam and also in Hong Kong. So we specialize in developing consumer apps like DeFi, gaming, and also some infrastructure on Ethereum and a lot of L2 chains, and more recently on Tons. So we focus on incubating token projects, and we partner with local ecosystem players like animal brands, who's like our co-founding partner in a lot of like these token projects. And also we have partnered with some other players like marketing agencies, market makers, and exchanges to help incubate these projects within a bigger ecosystems.
Thank you so much, Linda. And I'm sure we're going to talk more about how you're building the ecosystem within Hong Kong and building a wider reach. Vadim, why don't you give us a brief introduction of yourself and what you're building at Holdex?
Hi everyone, my name is Vadim. I'm a co-founder at Holdex, we're the Web3 venture studio with a focus on the institutional DeFi. We're in the space since 2017. We've built more than 40 plus projects. Most of them are dead already, but some of them are pretty big in the space and well established. Yeah.
Well, everybody has their winners and losers. We will cover all of that in just a moment. So just to open the floor for discussion, Linda, I know that you're actively pursuing ecosystem building and working with different games and different projects within the space. Could you tell us a little bit more from your perspective as an investor about what are the emerging trends that you're looking at in the market?
Sure. So first of all, I want to make it clear because Yolo Capital, which is the venture side of Yolo Lab, we mainly only incubate our in-house projects. So I think today I will speak more broadly from the general VC perspective on what VC are looking to invest and how they want to invest nowadays, not necessarily from the Yolo Lab perspective. So generally what we observe is right now, in the past, so I'll give a little background if not everyone's familiar with the crypto VCs. So crypto VC, I think more than half of them, or even like 2/3 of them, are mainly focusing on investing in a project with a token. So this is what set apart crypto VC and the more traditional VC, which invests in equity and invests in different type of project that could be a SaaS, infrastructure that is still, like things that exist in Web3 space. And for the token projects, is something that, made a lot of VC monies, like crypto VC money in the past 2 cycles. And, but, with more VC joining the space and more projects getting money, going up for higher valuations in the last cycle, we have seen a lot of tokens project unable to reach the so we call the TGE, token generated event. So meaning that they cannot go for a public listing in a centralized exchange. Normally that will be their preferred destination for the listing. So this creates a problem of trapped liquidity, creates a problem of high valuation, unable to actually, like something that current market cannot cater for the valuation in the private realm. So a lot of VC in current cycle have re-evaluate those theses they always have because they believe in a very fast turnover of the token investment cycle in the past, which is generally very true. But if you miss the window, now we've seen a lot of really big projects, not even talking about the small to medium projects. They were still waiting to go for TGE. I think a lot of them are aiming at end of this year, but it really depends on a lot of things on the macro condition because one thing is crypto is highly intertwined with other assets and other markets. So as a start, Bitcoin is a very isolated market and isolated assets. So meaning that the people who invest in crypto and invest in other assets like stock, bonds, they are not overlap. So meaning that you have two groups of people with very different risk exposure. So that gives a crypto a very different space to grow. But as we see now with the introduction of ETF, with the actual listing of ETF, there are actually more liquidity coming into the market, coming into Bitcoin and Ethereum, especially because these are the ones that actually has the ETF. But unfortunately, this liquidity are not overspilled to the altcoins. So the new token projects that actually needs the liquidity. So for VC, definitely we evaluate this situation, and a lot of new projects have significantly lowered their valuation, which has make it more reasonable, more attractive. But for VC, I think we diversify. We're no longer just looking at investing in tokens. Sometimes a lot of VC are willing to be the angel of no matter whether it's a token project or infrastructure project, as long as it has like a long-term business potential, not just like, okay, it's because right now there's a lot of meme coins or there's a lot of demand for prediction market, and that's the only thing you only want to invest in. So everything is back to more traditional investment approach, where you really look at these businesses, whether they can generate revenue, meaning that if these projects can bootstrap themselves, and with that in mind, it doesn't matter whether they have a token or just an equity project, because they potentially have a longer runway regardless of the market, and they will be able to sustain themselves with a really good business model behind the rationale. So I think with this in mind, I think as the crypto VC that are still in the space, basically we are more open, more conservative at the same time, and because we don't want to just invest in something that is currently very trendy in the market, but we have to also judge whether these projects can go to TGE very soon. And this actually is not just depends on the project itself, it actually depends on the market conditions. So there are a lot of factors in play, and these are all the things we consider, and maybe that's why it slows down a lot of like investment decision with a lot of VC in the space, combined with previous 2 years with a high interest rate environment that creates a more problem with the liquidity side. So these are all the factors currently we still have, but I think these are going to change, and we look forward to see how this will change. And I think there will be a change to how VC invests in token projects as well. It will be something more simpler, less complicated with more rounds, and meaning that they're likely to be higher valuation at the end of the rounds. So these are some of the things I look forward to see the change in the space.
Thank you so much, Linda. That was actually very useful for the audience to understand from a VC perspective what are the most important things that you would look at from a lens of a VC and what you would expect from a project. Going back into the more builder side of the panel here, Vadim, we mentioned a little bit about you being a builder. from your perspective as well, how do you intersect what Linda has mentioned with traditional finance and mingle that with building innovative Web3 technologies?
So there are a few aspects into that. First one is, as you mentioned, investment, and I think this part is a little bit broken in the crypto space, because most of the people, when they launch the project, when they raise money, they all focus solely on the token, right? And most of the time there is no utility for the token. And it's becoming like a pump and dump game, which also brings a lot of problems into our space, because a lot of people think that there is a lot of scam, and for the right reason. But we are focusing mainly on the institutional DeFi, so our game plan is a little bit different. We work and partner with the hedge funds, trade firms who are willing to enter blockchain space because they're seeing blockchain more as like a rails for the existing business rather than like a new pump and dump scheme. So from my perspective, blockchain is just a very good technology to replace the old school stack, like old school databases in the traditional space. Of course, I think the blockchain will have no value if all the original ideas and concepts of the blockchain will be replaced by centralized control or let's say closed blockchains, like non-public blockchains, etc. Because I think blockchain, the biggest value of the blockchain is the original values of the Bitcoin, right? So which is transparency, inclusivity, and security. So unless you can maintain those things in your product, in your financial products, I think you'll have a good product market fit. Because current financial systems, from my perspective, and that's why I joined the space originally, are very non-inclusive. And you know, there is like a lot of problems. I'm originally from Russia, I'm Russian. I had a lot of problems and I moved to Hong Kong 10 years ago. And I had a lot of problems opening bank account for myself personally because I'm a Russian citizen. I had a problem to kind of like open a bank account for my company, etc. So I see blockchain as an opportunity for kind of cutting-edge fintech companies and businesses build some better products. So that's my perspective on that.
Thank you so much, Vadim, for sharing your insight. Piggybacking on your notion that you built Holdex out of an opportunity to solve this issue. Let's talk about successes that we've seen in terms of building in Web3, whether that be from investment point of view or if you've seen any particular project that has caught your attention. Linda, would you like to share your insights here?
Yes, so actually in this news cycle, we know what were the trends and narrative in the last one, which is like NFT, metaverse, and gaming, SoFi. So in this cycle, I think everyone is familiar with some new vertical narrative like DP, LWA, meme coins, etc. So at least the vertical that actually represent excitement. Honestly, we are very result-driven when we assess the trend because we want to know whether this trend can actually has like an efficient way to acquire user and what are these users they acquires. So we noticed that for a lot of DP projects, there's an issue with the cost of participations because they expect you to have some setup, right? Whether it's like hardware, and then whether it's like mining with your phone, mining with your laptop, or some other devices. And then they have to reuse this, bandwidth you provide to actually provide to maybe to AI service provider that actually gonna give them the revenue. So this is actually quite a process. I think this has potential, but with the few big DPM project that actually has the token launch and has actually halfway through their business plan, we see a problem of this being very costly, high valuation project. And actually they gather a lot of users to participate. But what users realize is the airdrop they're getting, like the tokens they're getting, are not adding up to the cost, because actually what they really want is not joining the community. They just want to mine the tokens, right? It's a little bit like mining the Bitcoin. So I feel like there's a lack of incentive on the social side with some of these DP projects. So that's why I think for this cycle, for trends to really grow and be successful and acquire new users, meaning that mass adoption, it has to actually open up some cultural aspect and potentially a new gamification that actually people feel involved and maybe even addicted. So I think a good few examples, but they may not be a new vertical, but they are successful example that we can maybe borrow from is, first is like prediction market. Poly market has, they actually not that Web3 at the low, because it looks like they're just like a prediction market with ability to pay with crypto. But actually a lot of things happen with smart contract. That's where the major blockchain elements comes in. And what it actually brings is because of their massive success, because of all these trends, they're able to predict through the prediction market. A lot of Web2 and Web3 users mix together in the platform. And in this way, they kind of rediscover each other. So Web2 users coming in, expecting they're just gonna put a bet on whether Donald Trump or Kamala Harris is gonna win, and they realize, okay, there's actually more than just putting a bet and getting the result. Actually, there's some other cool technology with this prediction market platform. And Web3 user we discover use cases. Like traditionally, you only have stuff like GameFi, is all based on tokenomics, but prediction market is not based on tokenomics. It's based on a new way to gamify, and that helps you get an income, and it can be a predictable income if you find a way. So I think these are good kind of trends because it actually provides a use case, and the use case is very solid. In terms of other ways to build a trend, I think another way we can look at this is whether there are other opportunities in the Web2 that we can bridge over to Web3. I think a successful example would be Tong, the chain for Telegram, the social app. I mean, they're the first one. So they're very successful because they have this 10 million users already on Telegram ready to be boarded. I'm not saying the conversion rate has to be very high, but Telegram is not even the biggest social media platform out there. What if the other social media platform join this and replicates the similar process and success? I think this will actually opens up to a lot of like new users that we desperately needed in the space, because to be honest, comparing Web3 to, in terms of the user base, it's growing very fast, but it's still not big enough to be like, wow, we actually were able to spill that over to other industry like AI, or even back to other Web2 application. It's not, we relied on Web2 or even AI to become a portal to allow Web3 people to access to crypto, meaning that I think that's the biggest difference in terms of what Web3 can provide, because a lot of things are just maybe a smart contract version of what is already, of the idea that's already out there. So yeah, I think with this in mind, this is what I will be assessing that drive the view, innovation, and growth in the space. Apart from a lot of like sexy narrative like DP or even meme coin, these are something that has long-term potential or have like a very exciting short-term growth, especially for meme coin, because they exist for a reason to bring the liquidity, bring the social aspect onto a new ecosystem of a chain, but in lack of a sustainable growth as of what we are seeing today. So, and because there will be a few that's going to be very successful, but it's not enough to drive the whole ecosystem. That's why with meme coin, I think it also needs to be evolved, how people use token to create value is something we need to keep diving into. Yeah, so I think these will be something I look forward to see.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Linda. Jumping out of the moderator persona for a little bit, I am representing CoreDAO. So back to your point about community building and producing real value for users and intersecting the Web2 to the Web3 audience. At CoreDAO, what we do is one thing that's been working really well with us is we do non-custodial Bitcoin staking. CoreDAO is Bitcoin and EVM wrapped in one, layer one. That's the big summary that I have. But within the CoreDAO ecosystem, what makes it successful is the community behind it, along with the robust tech. And we also have been working really hard with our institutional partners. We have very recently launched a campaign with Solve, with the Solve BTC. And very recently, we also reached a really fast traction with Solve. And that has been very, very well received by the audience members. And we're essentially redefining, and we've pioneered, but now redefining how people interact with Bitcoin. So within this very new ecosystem called BTC-Fi, CoreDAO is leading it, but we're looking at expanding our reach outside of DeFi, like what you said with liquidity and mining and all that. In terms of community, we do have a very active network of community managers advocating for us. That really helps with our TVL going up, and that is actually due to our internal platform called Ignition, where people can earn rewards for interacting on social media. So it's also echoing your point that social media is a very, very good driving tool. We're not natively integrating with Ton at Core. We're using a bunch of different content pieces in social media. And if you go on the website and look at the different campaigns that will come over the next couple of months, you'll see different sort of campaigns like content. We'll of course do the meme competitions that people love. And we'll also do videos, educational content. So it's really important to us to have a very well-rounded approach in terms of building our whole ecosystem. We're currently #1 on all Bitcoin measurements. We're #1 TVL, we're #1 on growth so far. In order to keep that momentum and growth, we still need to innovate, even though we're at the top. So with that note of innovation, I'll segue back to you, Vadim. What are the successes that you could talk about at Holdex?
You mean our use cases?
Yeah, some successful use cases that you have on top of your head.
So one of our projects called ClearPool is an uncollateralized borrowing platform, first of its kind in the space. All major lenders in the space, in the crypto space, are our either lenders or borrowers, including BCW guys who were like previously on the stage here. We're building now the financial data streams platform called Trueflation. Trueflation.com is the alternative inflation index and financial data indexes, which are tradable on chain. Pretty big project as well, backed by Coinbase and Chainlink. We're building also the zero knowledge credit rating system for basically anyone, any business, small and medium enterprises, to be able to get the credit score to basically start borrowing, because we're very bullish on the trend of uncollateralized borrowing, because of all the blockchain space and most of the capital in crypto, like Ethereum, Rev, Bitcoin, etc., they're all trapped into collateralized borrowing platforms like Compound, Curve, Yarn, etc. But they're not really kind of attached to real world, because I mean, for you to borrow something, you need to leave the collateral, which doesn't make sense for normal businesses. So we believe in basically in everything related to capital markets, all products related to that, credit scoring systems, financial data streams, credit scoring systems, yeah, lending protocols. So far, like the total capitalization of, coin market capitalization of our companies is around 1 billion, and the total transactional volume is more than 2 billion of the products we've built for the last 2 years.
Thank you so much for sharing everybody's insights and the successes that you guys see. We're going to slowly wrap up our conversation. Why don't we talk about the future now? In terms of all these different trends and the different restrictions that we might have from a product perspective, it could be from the actual product itself, the technology versus the product market fit, and from an investment point of view, in terms of ROI and the more long-term aspects of whichever ecosystem that you're supporting. What are the future considerations that you think would be very important for the latter of 2024? Let's start with Linda.
Do you mean like consideration in like
Like
regulatory consideration, or
like, do you see any particular challenges, or are you eyeing on anything in particular to happen within the market, and that's why you're moving in a certain way?
Yes, I think I briefly mentioned this in the opening about how the challenges come from crypto being an asset that's highly intertwined with, highly correlated with a lot of other asset class that is, that is currently undergoing their own fertility because of the macroeconomic conditions. And we all know what's approaching at the year end is there will be, election in the US, there will be potentially some events in the Middle East. And we definitely see how these move crypto prices significantly at the news of these events. And that's why if you're a retail crypto investor, you just want to buy some tokens, manage that portfolio. I think nowadays you have to pay a lot of attention to these. Outside of just trading, in terms of the trading profitability, outside of that, if you just want to get into the space and set things up correctly for yourself and wonder which jurisdiction is something you have to consider, whether it's setting up a crypto business or just trying to get into the space as a professional investor. Each region actually differs a lot. Sometimes as investor, as someone who's been building in the space for a long time, I think we're constantly figuring out what are the latest policy. Even being in Hong Kong, we constantly hearing, the regulators wanted to do something. We actually get advices. We actually hear feedbacks. We know the regulators, they hear feedbacks. They want to adopt something, want to change something in the space, but they are also unsure. So that's why we see policy that's being kind of discussed, announced, and then we're not sure how it's actually, because no one has ever done it with like a regulatory framework. So it's all gonna take steps and time, and eventually we'll see how this can be mature. And Hong Kong is relatively very crypto friendly in terms of historically there are a lot of crypto projects being founded in Hong Kong, got funding, and then there are a few exchanges. They were headquartered in Hong Kong, and now Hong Kong is moving more into regulating in terms of their licenses and the stable coins. But to make this a successful regulatory changes, I think it needs more than the regulations. Like it needs to combine with the marketing, the business model, because for the government, they also need the ecosystem player to get involved. So yeah, for this, I think the outlook is very positive for whether you're investor, a retail investor or professional investor. And for the global challenges in terms of how macro events gonna affect crypto, I think this is something we just have to go through together, and then hopefully crypto will find a way to distinct themselves from these events. And because I think crypto has always trying to establish, especially when Bitcoin was first created, I think it served a purpose of providing an alternative channel for the payment world. So I think, this is something we should continue to see how crypto can innovate so that we can emerge as a more attractive assets and tools and technology to the traditional financial world.
Thank you so much, Linda, for sharing. And Vadim, what do you have to say for the future of developing products in Web3?
I think the future is already here. All the technology is available. I don't think there is a bottleneck in the technology nowadays. I think the bottleneck is in the future use cases, in particular related to the real world problems, financing and closing the financing gap. There are like so many L2s, L1s popping up. Mantra is launching their mainnet next year, etc. So they'll be sharing the same market, and we need much more capital inflow, which again means like we need real use cases for that. So I think, there is no problem with the technology at this stage. The future is behind the a good use cases, which are probably remittance, as Linda mentioned, with all the kind of change of order, what's happening right now. I think everyone should look at the Bitcoin. Bitcoin is always a good future use case to look at. And
stake it at core.
Yeah, for sure. And look at the different protocols. There will be like more protocols launching. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. And jumping into a speaker role, I think the future would demand us to gamify a lot of our process in order to get more users in. It's an easy way to onboard users without them having to know all of this different tech. And I personally think that this has worked really well with virtual banking. So in Web3, I think we should be aiming to do the same, or we are already pressured to do the same. The second thing is, as the ecosystem of Web3 grows more and more with all these different products and new narratives, I think it's even more important to consider interoperability of different ecosystems and chains and different products, because there's a lot of space to innovate, but there are so many users right now. I think with the amount of competing narratives that a normal user can see, it's become very, very difficult to differentiate oneself amongst others to begin with. And the competition is healthy, but if it comes to the stage where the product fits the market and they both equally work well, is there really a need to further push the agenda of competition for the sake of being number one? I would rather think that from a user acquisition point of view, we might as well work together to grow blockchain adoption, since we're all here to push that as our core value. All right. So thank you everybody for sharing. One last comment from everybody, and then we'll leave everybody for their lunch break. Linda, do you have any closing statements about what you've shared today in Yolo Capital?
Actually, I agree with Vadim. I think because as a software developer myself, I used to be, I agree on the technology has already advanced enough for the blockchain space, and what we currently really need is use cases that drive the technology, because we don't know what we need to build to support the new use cases which haven't been here yet. So as a from the investor point of view, I think we desperately looking for not just a sexy narrative, but use cases that actually bring us results, actually that builds communities like Melizza, what you're doing, and actually that creates value for the user, so that people can stop saying like crypto is all about like just short trading, and it's all about quick liquidity. We want the liquidity to stay for a good long-term reason, and that reason sometimes to come from a good business model outside of technology. Can be something related to cultural, related to gamification, related to daily lifestyle, what people can do to interact with Web3 on daily basis will be something massively sticky and bullish for the market in the long term.
Thank you so much, Linda. And Vadim, do you have any closing comments?
Long live crypto. I think Linda have said everything. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining our panel today. Melissa Anievas from Cordell. You just heard from Vadim Zolotokrylin from Holdex, and Linda Chan from Yolo Capital. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you very much. Our speakers.